Everybody, welcome to this episode of Think Business Live. I'm looking forward to talking with Matt Putra. Matt, it's great to connect with you. You are an experienced fractional CFO. You're the founder of Eightx, EIGHTX.co. Run your business with more cash and less stress. I want to talk about this because I think a fractional CFO is something that a lot of people don't think about until they think about it. It's kind of like a business coach. You don't think you need it until you know you need it.
Yep.
And so I like to start off. I'm a business coach. I work with successful people who are stuck. I get them unstuck all over the globe. And so where's a recent stuck point that you find people as they bridge over from not knowing they need a fractional CFO to needing a fractional CFO? What's that unstuck point that they get to?
Yeah, I think one of the big ones is I hear a lot like we're just growing so fast. I just don't know where it's all going. I don't know if it's going to work, and that's where we come in and we kind of we can paint the picture and say, look, based on what's happening today, it's going to work. And we've had a conversation where we said to somebody, based on what's happening today, this is not going to work at all. And so then focus turns to helping them figure out their model. What are they going to do differently?
Yeah. And I'll comment on that too. When people talk about growing so fast, one of the things they forget sometimes, I see this as a business coach, is especially I work with startups to Fortune companies and everything in between.
Yeah.
But with kind of the smaller to medium-sized companies, you sometimes, especially, you get away, you start growing your ideas, you start growing the company, you start growing so fast. But I just want to remind everybody, Think Community, you need cash flow to get to open up your doors the next day, right? And so cash flow is number one. So when you talk about your logo, your slogan is run your business with more cash and less stress, right? There's a reason I think you didn't put run your business with less stress and more cash. The cash has to come first, right?
100%. We've just seen.
Hold on, you put it on mute. You put your thing on mute.
Is that better now?
Oh yeah. So tell me, you were saying, you said,
the people that are profitable and they have 3 to 6 months of cash in the bank, 3 to 6 months of OpEx in the bank. Those people are not stressed. Those people are enjoying running their business.
Correct.
Generally.
Yeah, good. No, I appreciate that. I do want to kind of continue that topic though. What is one thing, Matt, that companies can do to make sure that they're putting 3 to 6 months of cash flow in reserves and that they are always kind of focused on profitability?
Yeah. The big one is delaying fixed costs. So hires or rent or offices or whatever, subscriptions even, or longer term commitments. I would say the people that have been the happiest that I've seen are the ones that delay those longer. So they just run lean and they just sock money away. And they work maybe a bit harder than those that don't, but they enjoy it more in my experience.
Yeah, that's really important. No, I appreciate that. Let's talk about, I want to do kind of a mini business course, because Eightx was created to help e-commerce owners scale their businesses with more cash and less stress.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes, to kind of keep on the theme of what we're talking about, sometimes people have a hard time articulating kind of the how they're going to scale their business.
Yep.
And so if you kind of can break that up into 3 areas, what are 3 things people need to think about when it comes to scaling their business?
Yeah. I mean, demand, profitable customer acquisition, right? I mean, you need to know how much it costs to acquire customers. You need to know what the average payback period is of your customers when you acquire them. I'd say that's one. I think if you can get that locked down, if your first purchase profitable, or if you have a payback within 3 months, then you have a model that can scale. Then it's retention, right? Can you retain your customers longer than your competitors? Can you retain your subscribers? I think, again, demand gen, right? Like if you have a product that retains people, if you have a model and a communication platform and methods that retain your customers, those 2 things, again, acquire them and retain them. And then other than that, I mean, I think It's really just cash preservation. So if you can do those three things, your business can grow. Can you negotiate with suppliers? Can you delay fixed costs? Can you hire from offshore instead of from North America or whatever? If you can do those things, uh, then I think your business can scale no problem.
I love it. I love it. Let's talk a little bit more about retention, because I think retention is a big piece, right? So
Yeah.
companies, they know what it costs to, or they need to know, and if they do know what it costs to get a client,
Hmm.
to your point, I don't know if companies know as much the lifetime value of a client, right? And so you have the lifetime value of a client, and then if they know it, they're not reverse engineering what they need to do to actually retain that
Yeah.
client,
Yeah.
right? As the markets change, as just things change in business and in the market. So
Hmm.
what are some of the things as a CFO, because the CFO is typically the CEO's right hand person, right?
Yeah.
And so what is a CFO advising the CEO and the COO on how to retain?
Um, I mean, I think it starts with product, right? Like you need to have a product that people want to buy more than once. And there are varying like levels of retention. So for apparel, I mean, if you sell t-shirts, people aren't going to come back and purchase every month. So then you have to acquire them quite cheaply. If you have a product where people will come back and purchase every single month, you can pay a bit more to acquire them as long as you keep them. So from my point of view, this is something that we look at with all of our clients every month. We look at their retention, we look at their rates, we look at how it's changing, we look at the conversion from that first purchase to then a repeat purchase behavior pattern. And for me, it's just look at the data, look at the data. When you see changes in the data, we'll go back and think about what were we up to that month, what was going on, what month was it a season, was it a marketing effort, was it a type of creative that was really working in that month. So from my point of view, it's really just looking at that data and dissecting what it is that happened to make the change, either good or bad.
Yeah. And I think also one of the things I see, Matt, is it's looking at the data and forecasting out, and then looking kind of year over year and month over
Mhm.
month. Meaning,
Oh yeah.
I think sometimes, okay, so if I'm sitting here, we're recording this in January
Hmm.
2024. This is live. It'll get put on the podcast platforms, and um, I'm forecasting out my year because
Hmm.
I'm looking at the current headwinds on how they may affect me in my business, and then
Yeah.
reverse engineering a little bit. Talk a little bit about forecasting and how to forecast and how to reverse engineer and course correct along the way.
Mm. Yeah. So I mean, obviously we do a lot of forecasting, and a big piece of that is this retention acquisition. So we can show somebody what changes if you retain people 5% better than you did. And so we can kind of paint the picture all the way down to net profit. This is what your business looks like if you retain people 10% better, 5% better, whatever, what have you. And so that's something that we're trying to hit people with pretty regularly. Look, if you do better, if you do 1% better, this is how profit changes. And then you can look at the model, look at the next year, look at the year after that. Look at, most people I work with want to exit at some point. So I can say, look, if you want to exit in 3 years and your retention is this is your profit. But if your retention is this, it's that much better because you're not having to reacquire all the time. And so I find showing it to people on Excel is our tool of choice, but
Yeah,
showing what your business could look like in the P&L is powerful because it's an incentive. It's a pretty big carrot
yeah,
when you figure out how to retain.
yeah. I love it. Talk about a little bit about the how you work with clients, right? So how
Sure.
I think sometimes people may be listening right now and say, "Hey, this sounds really good, but how do I incorporate a fractional CFO
Mhm.
into my business? Is it 1 hour a week? Is it 5 hours a week? Like, what is the flow of that, the rhythm?"
Sure. Yeah, we have a couple different models. The more in depth is you can pick multiple days a week. It's pretty expensive, but if you pick the sort of standard, what happens is we do an 8-week sprint. We learn all about your business. We build you a financial model. We do the budgets. We do the planning, all that stuff, and then from there, it's lighter touch. So we're available anytime. Slack, WhatsApp, whatever. Call us when you have a question. but we have a couple standing meetings a month where we go, okay, these are the results. This is what we thought would happen. This is what actually happened. Here's some things that didn't go the way we planned. Well, let's talk about why they didn't go the way they planned.
Yeah.
We planned. And then understand, can we do something about this? What do we do about this? Does this change affect the way that we've been planning the rest of the year? If it does, what can we do? If it doesn't, maybe we don't do anything. But so that's just sort of understanding what's going on, what to do about it. Then, of course, we're optimizing things like supplier payment terms. Will help you do negotiations. Will help you find better debt. Will help you figure out who to hire, when to hire. Will help you figure out, how do you manage your marketing budget for optimal profitability. We'll look at, SKU-wise forecasting. What are the health of your SKUs? Are there SKUs you should cut? We really look at everything.
Yeah.
And a big part is cost control, right? And so we help you build a budget that's quite detailed, where you can see, when you have an expense come across your plate or you're thinking about doing something, well, you pull up your budget. Did I account for this? And if you didn't account for it, well, you're either not going to do it or you're going to make a business case to spend that money. So what's the ROI on that change in spend plan? And so it's a lot of discipline and testing scenarios just to make sure that we're on the right track. And if we're off track, how do we get back on track?
Yeah. What I'm seeing is that you're able to problem solve and critically think and be a backstop, a sounding board, and a guide and an advisor to get your clients to make the right decision. Because I think a lot, right. And so that's a CFO to me does everything you just said, but also kind of get people focused on making a right decision, right? For the business.
And I think that it's interesting you say it that way, because one of the things that we find is people are kind of bombarded with KPIs.
Yeah.
And so what we want to do is help you figure out what are the right ones to focus on, and the simpler the better.
Yeah.
The closer they map to your income statement, the closer they map to like the levers that are important for your business, the better. And just to kind of help remove some of the noise.
Yeah. So when you say that, it reminds me of, the story of Sam Walton. He would be in his conference room and they'd give him all the numbers. He'd go to the coffee shop, have pie and coffee with his customers, come back and say, okay, this is the data that's important. And this is what we're going to do with it to get more people in the door, to retain them, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. All right. Rewind with me for a minute, because I don't think success is ever a straight line. And give us kind of the 1 or 2 minute version on how you got to today, and also any mentors or lessons along the way that impacted you to start your business that you have today.
Sure. I started off blue collar, sweeping floors in a manufacturing plant, and learned that I could manage people quite well. Learned that I wanted kind of more than what I was seeing available at the time. So I went back to school when I was like 30, finished my bachelor's at 30, started my accountancy at 32. And then from there, basically what I did was do projects outside of work to kind of build my resume. And then I got picked up as a VP finance by a private equity firm. And I would say on the mentorship piece, I've had a few. My managing director at the PE firm, who I'm still in touch with, was just a fantastic person. His name is Garth Davis. And he taught me a lot, gave me a lot of grace and patience as I figured out this vice president role. And I think, all the business owners that I've worked for and with, I learned something from all of them, and whether good or bad. And so that's just been helping me, piece together this sort of strategic mindset and seeing what's working, what hasn't been working. And I don't know, man, people that just allow you to have the honest conversations.
Right. Those are the clients. I was talking to somebody today, a new person was referred to me, and I was sharing with them, like, I can really only work with people who surrender and are open to being coached. Right. Yeah. I think I'm great at what I do, but I can only do it for somebody who's open to it. It's the same thing you're talking about. I want to do, based on what you just shared, I want to do a mini life course right now.
Sure.
You said you started out blue collar. So I want to do a mini life course on 3 things to be thinking about for moving from a blue collar to a white collar world.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. Because I think a lot of times that story sings true to many, many people, right? You shared your story starting sweeping the floors, and now you're a fractional CFO. And there is that shift from and there's nothing wrong with blue collar. I'm not
No, of
suggesting
course
that
not.
there
No.
is, but what your story that you just shared is how you moved from blue collar to white collar.
Yeah.
And so I think there's a lot there for people to help them get unstuck.
Sure.
And so if you had to kind of drill it down to three things for people to think about, whether it's their mindset or do or execute, what would those be? Number one.
Yeah. I would say it doesn't have to be school, but it has to be learning. So YouTube, even Reddit, Twitter, if you have an interest, and follow your interest. I think maybe that's the first one, is follow your interests. I loved numbers and I loved math. And I followed my interests, and I looked at YouTube, and I looked at all these things, these tools where I could learn how to build Excel models online. And I started just doing them in my day-to-day blue collar work first. So when I had an issue with production, I would map it into Excel, and I would go to YouTube and I'd figure out, well, how do I really build this thing in Excel? And then I'd show up a week later to the plant and say, look, I figured something out. Let's use it. Right. So that was
Right.
probably the first step. And I wasn't asked to do it. But I knew that I wanted to do something with my mind in that way. The next one is, definitely you have to take some risks, because I had to take a pay cut to get into the white collar world, because I didn't find an opportunity at the time where someone would trust a very blue collar worker to move into a white collar role, in a horizontal or even vertical move. No, I had to go downwards first.
Yeah.
So I took a 10-15 grand pay cut for my first white collar job to work in an office. So taking risks is a big piece. And the third one, I would say, is the mentorship piece. Find people you can work for. Ideally, if you can work for someone that will mentor you as well, that'd be great. But if not, find someone who will mentor you, who will make introductions. There's a guy I know named Antonio. Way back in the day, I was blue collar, and I told him, look, I really want to make a move into this new world. And he made intros, he made connections, he sent me job listings. So I would say those connections and those mentors are, and it like really one of the biggest reasons that I'm here today.
I really appreciate that mini master's class, or that life course, because I think there's so much content in there that will help so many people, no matter where they are in their lives. But going above and beyond, like you talked about, right? And when you want to grow and you want to prove yourself, and taking risks, which I think is so important. Sometimes you got to go 2 steps backwards to go 10 steps forward. And the power of mentorship. I'm a business coach, and I work with solopreneurs to Fortune companies and everything in between. But I just launched another business called Launch 3, launch-3.com. And it's a coaching platform for 18 to 26-year-olds. And it's filled with mentorship and knowledge. We have speakers every Wednesday. I'd love for you to speak to
that'd be great.
the group and sign up to be part of our mentor hub. But it's all about giving the tools of mentorship to encourage people to take risks, and fueling them with knowledge of speakers and curated quick content. And so I appreciate it. I think that was a great mini life course.
I love that you're doing that for the 18 to 26-year-olds. Man, I would have killed for that at that
Killed.
100%.
Killed for it. Yeah.
Killed for it.
Yeah. I love it. Well, this was great. So, so your business. So who's your ideal client, Matt?
Yeah, I would say somebody that's doing, probably more than 2 million, maybe more than 5 million a year in revenue.
Okay.
And they want to do something big. They're not just happy with the way things are. They either want to change, fix it, or they want to grow and exit, or they want to, Series A, Series B. We have the biggest impact for people that want to make big moves, because we just help them figure it all out. And right now we work with e-commerce people. We work with some people in SaaS, and then clean tech and green tech are big industries for us as well.
Well, what's interesting is when you say help them figure it out, people need that, I think, more than ever, right? I find that in my coaching business, it's like, I think you and I are the same in the way that we create a space where we ask questions that people can get to a space that they can't get to on their own, or it'll take a lot longer. And so they need somebody guiding them, taking them to this deeper place of understanding, intrinsically, so they can grow, extrinsically. So it's really, really important. It's really important. I love what you're doing, and I think it's so well needed, especially in today's world. In a post-COVID world too, we're seeing more people who are hybrid, people starting companies that are hybrid. Companies can grow faster than ever before. You still got to do all the hard work, but I think your model is outstanding. Let's do a quick speed round.
Sure.
A book or a TED Talk or an article that's had a big impact on you.
I mean, this is a total cliche, but How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Yeah, it's one of the best.
Just absolutely foundational for everything I've done since that book. Yeah.
Amen to that. Best piece of wisdom you've ever received.
Don't sacrifice family on the altar of success.
Yeah. Well said. Well said. Finish this sentence. One thing every company can do to make sure that they're on the path of daily profitability is
stay lean.
Yeah. Stay lean.
As long as you can.
Yeah. Well said. Well said. Tell everybody where they can reach out to you, connect with you, learn more about you.
Yeah. My website, eightx.co, eightx.co is a place. LinkedIn, find me on LinkedIn. I'm there all the time. Pretty active. So we can chat. You can ask me questions. I can answer them. Anything like that.
You know, I'm all about growing my network, and I'm glad that we got connected.
Me too.
Because I want to stay connected to you, and if we can, refer some business back and forth, whether you send it to me, but I feel like I'd love to be able to send some business your way. And one of the great things about podcasting is I get to meet all these people all over the world who provide a great service. I just want to kind of highlight, for you, Think Community, it is about thinking lean, thinking in a very smart, methodical way. And we need people around us to help us make really, really good decisions, because all it takes is one bad assumption to take down a company.
100%.
Take down a company. And if you look back, like in the internet days, when I was in the internet business, we met with Borders, and they kept on telling us, Amazon's not going to be anything, and they're not going to put us out of business. And, and they made a bad assumption. And you can point to a lot of companies that made one bad assumption and it took down their company. And so Think Community, be careful of not making that one bad assumption. You said something earlier, Matt, it's expensive. I don't see things as expensive. I see things as an investment, because one bad assumption is expensive.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, 100%.
Investing in people around you is smart business. So I appreciate you coming on the show. 8x.com. You can reach me at johndwoskin.com. Matt, stay on and we'll catch up. Thanks, everybody. Matt, thanks so much.
Thank you so much, John.